Hi everyone. So today we're going to analyze Shake's behavior from the reunion show and how I feel it's his defensive mechanism against deeper pain and rejection. So if you've seen the reunion episode, then you'd understand when I say that it's very easy to call him names, label him as a narcissist and delusional, the villain of the show. But I feel that Shake is just an unfortunate product of our wider society problems that have repercussions for our mental health and relationships. So namely, those problems are inequality, which includes racism, and also toxic masculinity, which means that men feel they cannot be vulnerable. I think Shake has missed an opportunity here to redeem himself. He's only done a half measure and not fully being authentic and vulnerable. He only admits that he does have a shallow physical preference that he can't get past or can't help, but he stops there and does not dig deeper into why he has those physical preferences for race and weight. Because unlike what he is trying to persuade us and himself, it's not purely an aesthetic preference. It is because he has very negative relationship with his own race and his own body image, and therefore with himself. So put it into context, the reunion show seems to have been filmed very recently after the rest of season 2 has been aired on Netflix. So the cast members not only have had the chance to see the show themselves and find out things they didn't realize, but also they are very aware of the wider reaction of the audience around the world, especially on social media. And Shake in particular has received a lot of berating and criticism and painted as a bit of a villain for how he's spoken about Dipti with regards to not being physically sexually attracted to her.
Why did you do Love is Blind?
So now we come to his main speech when the host asks him, why did you do Love is Blind? You will see that firstly, he contradicts what he said earlier on in the show, where he said he couldn't take the show seriously and was not here to find a wife.
A very tough time taking it seriously. The show is about finding a wife. I don't think that's true.
Now, he says that he wanted more than anything for his relationship with Dipti to work, for him to find a partner on the show with a deeper emotional connection. However, he can't control his own preferences for physicality, such as race and body weight, which he puts down to himself being an animal.
So when we're in a situation where the stakes are so big, I want to make sure this thing works. And for me, that meant I knew at least a certain physical body type. I'm going to make sure I do everything in my power to ask my questions. I want this shit to work. Nobody wanted it as bad as me, despite what you may think. We all have our physical preferences. Listen, every woman here is beautiful. I think you're all beautiful. I'm not attracted to all of you. Unfortunately, the only one I'm attracted to is Vanessa. And and I wish I wasn't. The point is, it's not a choice. It's nature, baby. We're animals.
Instead of being validated for his right to have his own criteria for a partner and what he seeks in a marriage, he is being told that he is a bad person, essentially.
Yeah, but I don't like people who treat human beings like you do. It's wrong.
Thank you.
It's wrong.
And this is because he's not admitting any flaw or fault within himself. He's basically saying, this is me. I have a right to be shallow. There's nothing wrong with that. At least I'm being real.
Shut up, Shane. What I've seen is a bunch of people that were so real in the beginning turn fake as fuck as we've gone through this.
You've been the fakest fuck. You've been the fakest person from the beginning.
I'm the realist, Jared.
When it would have been better received and better for himself in his growth if he would just admit that, yes, I might be shallow. Love is not fully blind for me because physical factors like race and weight are still very important to me, as it turns out. And that's what I learned in this process. And it's because of my past traumas and insecurities. Growing up in America as a brown boy, as a chubby boy, and feeling that I wasn't worthy.
because I was out of shape growing up and I was always kind of uncomfortable, I'm like, I kind of would compensate by being with somebody in good shape. In the past, I have run away from my culture and Indian women, but right now I'm just embracing who I am and feeling very excited and at home.
Vulnerability is powerful. It makes you relatable. It makes you real, which is what Shake is aiming to be, but failing miserably. So I interpret subsequent deranged behavior on the reunion show as a stressful defensive response from Shake. And I think it's a defensive response. It's not really him being himself because one, it's inconsistent with how he's behaved on the rest of the show. And secondly, he's inconsistent within this one episode. So to me, he is overcompensating here. I think he's butthurt about two things. So firstly, during the experience on the show, I don't think he expected Dipti to be the one that says no to him.
But no, I cannot marry you.
Like, very transparent. I was the one that was more on the fence. Like, you know what I mean? But like, if I would have said yes, you would have said yes. That's why.
And also, he's feeling the effects of being majorly rejected on social media. I feel his overall strategy here is to change the values. He's trying to devalue the show's premise, devalue the entire experience and what it meant for him, which is quite classic of what a dominant FI introverted feeler would do. However, his downfall is that he also tries to be a bit of a representative of the wider group and audience, which is using his lowest function TE extroverted thinking, which is why it's done so badly and no one buys it. He is using his lowest function TE a lot as well, which is an extroverted function, which is why he suddenly seems outlandishly extroverted on the reunion show.
But I've had a very tough time taking it seriously.
So that's an example of changing values.
The drive to continue on the show was a driving factor, I think.
Saying that there are other reasons why he might have proposed and stuck around with Dipti, namely to stay on the show for longer.
I'm a tell-all. I'm going to say what everyone's thinking at home.
Do not put me into your words at all. That's not our experience in this experiment. I can't speak for everybody.
And then because he's being attacked, he goes from saying that he's speaking for the group, reverting to it's his own personal opinion, which to me is bouncing between using TE, extroverted thinking, groupthink, and FI, introverted feeling, which is my personal preference.
It's actually not what the show's.
That's okay. Maybe that was the point of the show, but like that's not the takeaway I had, and I think it's a very reasonable takeaway, if I may say so. Hey, I'm not going to be put in a box where I have to do that.
He also looks like he's got amnesia. If you juxtapose what he says on the reunion show with what he says during the actual experience, because he's got dominant extroverted sensing function, SE, which I've said in other videos, lives in the moment and reacts to what's in front of them. So they don't tend to reference the past, especially when they're in survival mode, which I think is what we're seeing here with Shake. Literally reacting moment by moment, therefore not consistent.
A very tough time taking it seriously. I'm beyond words how excited I am about finding someone like Deeps. Honestly, like you're everything that I would want. I mean, the show is about finding a wife. I don't think that's true. Deepti, will you make me the luckiest man in the world and marry me? Oh, you're gonna be my fucking wife.
You're gonna be my husband.
Another way he's using TE extroverted thinking is by setting himself up as the judge, quick to point out the other cast members' faults, hoping to deflect criticism from himself.
And it's in the past. It's okay.
May I? Two things. Number one, your situation with Jarrett, that whole situation and the aftermath of that, I think that was an uncomfortable thing. Number two, your ex-girlfriend. I think as in your shoes, that's going to sour a relationship.
Jake, who are you to like provide that?
I'm just saying this.
In the end, I think it's a real shame for Shake because firstly, he's hurting his own reputation, coming off as the biggest dick on the show. And secondly, he is hurting and has now severed any chance of relationship or friendship with Dipti, who, according to him, was the first woman he has ever formed a deep connection with. Towards the end of this episode, you do see signs of some remorse maybe, or that his mistakes may be dawning on him a little bit, but it's a bit too little too late, I'm afraid.
You know, he was straightforward with me. I'm not physically attracted to you. Listen, I don't give a fuck if you're not. But if you care about somebody and you're supposedly their friend, you do not disrespect them on national fucking TV.
Like, yeah, I could have handled that differently. I agree.
You just don't know how to speak, especially to women. That's all I'm going to say.
Goddess villain.
No,
we understand.
it's not.
He is, yeah. And this is me as a person for you guys, for your entertainment.
Is anything y'all want to say?
You're right. This was the wrong show for me. I'll just come out and say it. I have my own warped views, and I got to work on those. That's all.
Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this has been helpful to you in some way. Thank you so much for those who've subscribed, liked, commented, and shared my last video on Shake, Dipti, and internalized racism. I've been really overwhelmed by the response, especially because my channel is very new. So please continue your support by clicking subscribe, like, or leaving a comment if you want more content from me. And if you'd like me to analyze you and your relationships, then details are in the description box below.